Well, good afternoon, and thank you for taking time out of your day to join us for today's webinar, Understanding Social Security. My name is Bob Dopke, Managing Partner here at Kennedy Financial Group. We may have some people strolling in here in a minute, but certainly want to be respectful of everybody's time. So we'll get going and get underway here. At KFG, as you know, our purpose is to help people live their best financial life. One of the ways that we try to live this out is by providing insight and guidance from the strategic partners and industry experts that we work with. Today, I'd like to introduce Max Eppley. He is a senior regional consultant at MFS. Max has over 10 years of industry experience and has worked closely with MFS's in-house Social Security expert to understand some of the most common pitfalls or mistakes made when making Social Security decisions. I'd also like to just take a brief moment and congratulate Max and his wife, Katie. Recently gave birth to their daughter, Abby, back in September. So, Max, congratulations, and I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Great. Thank you so much for the warm welcome, and hopefully you can hear me right now. But as Bob said, my name is Max Eppley, and I work for MFS Investment Management. So I am very excited to be here today. Social Security is one of my favorite topics that I cover, and the main reason why it is one of my favorite is if you think about my entire family, we seem to have broken every single rule in Social Security. So I've spent more hours online with SSA than probably everyone on this Zoom in attendance. So that spurred and was a catalyst to me to learn a little bit more about Social Security. And my goal here today is very simple. I don't think we're all going to leave here today to be masters in Social Security. But what I do want you to consider this is maybe your starting point or enhance your knowledge in Social Security. Learn a few different avenues of when to decide to take your benefit. But more importantly, if you take anything away from today, I want you to be aware of the pitfalls that clients fall into when they are taking their benefit. 70% of Americans take their benefit as early as possible at age 62. That is not an issue if it fits your financial picture, but I just want to make sure that you leave this event knowing that you have several different options. We do have some Q&A that was submitted earlier, but by all means, if you have a very individual question, please reach out to Bob and we can set up some one-on-one time to talk as well. So as Bob said, we just welcomed a brand new girl to the family about a month ago. And I was telling Bob that my wife previously for 10 years was a teacher, and she has rubbed off on me quite a bit. And I hate to start all of our relationship today giving you homework, but unfortunately I am. If you're on this webinar today and you have not signed up for ssa.gov that you can see on the screen here, I'm going to need you to do that hopefully this weekend or sometime soon. Many common questions that come from Social Security can actually be answered by visiting your own personalized page on ssa.gov. What I do recommend is you set aside a little bit longer than 5 or 10 minutes, because what they do to verify you is they ask you very personal questions like what was your first auto loan 30 years ago, or what street you grew up on. So make sure you do have a lot of information readily available. But if you take anything away from this, and again, apologies for giving you homework, but please do sign up on ssa.gov after this webinar. So what I'm going to present today here that you see on your screen is all available via electronic or hard copy. If you would like a hard copy, please reach out to Bob and we can get that over to you. So the first question that I always get asked is, well, Max, when should I be taking my own benefit? It's a very subjective question, as you can imagine. I do feel that Social Security has become somewhat of a water cooler type conversation, right? Maybe you're talking to your neighbor and they say, hey, I'm taking mine at 63. And someone says, well, I'm taking mine at 69. And you're wondering and putting undue pressure on yourself when you should take your benefit, and you just end up taking it as early as possible. So unless your dedicated financial advisor is the one telling you when to take it, please don't fall into the trap of listening to other people. But the good news is Social Security has given us a guiding age to be aware of when they think you might want to start taking your benefit, and it's called full retirement age that you see on the screen here. And in an industry that is dominated by acronyms, we have yet another one, FRA. And that is simply the age that if you were to take it at, you would receive no decrease in your benefit. You're going to receive no increase to your benefit. You are simply going to receive what you are entitled to after all those years of working and paying into the system. And the easiest thing to know about your full retirement age is it's purely based on your year of birth that you see me highlighting here. So for those of you online today, born between 1943 and 1954, your full retirement age is 66 years old. And as our eyes look left to right, as the year of birth changes, so too does your full retirement age. 66 years plus 2 months, plus 4, plus 6, 8, 10, all the way to age 67. Anyone online today born at or after 1960, your full retirement age is 67 years old. So I just want you to think about when you're trying to make that decision, just know what your full retirement age is. Social Security will allow you to go into their administration and file paperwork up to maybe 1 or 2 months prior to your full retirement age. So if you do want to take at full retirement age, I want you to block off 2 dates. The date of that full retirement age and the date, let's call it 2 to 3 months prior, so you can go in and start filing the paperwork. So very easy. It can only ever fall between 66 and 67, and it is purely based off your year of birth. So now that we know what full retirement age is, let's talk about how do you even qualify for your own benefit and how they come up with your benefit number that you're entitled to. We do have 4 quadrants on the screen here. The first number I want to allude to, though, is this this number, 40. In order to qualify for your own benefit, you need to have worked and paid into the system for at least 40 quarters. Quick math will tell you that that is 10 total years. And the best news is that it is non-consecutive. So for those of you online today who have worked previously, maybe left the workforce, then rejoined, that's great. All you need to do is hit 40 quarters of total work. Again, on SSA.gov, they're going to tally those quarters up. So you can always visit your profile to see how far along you are. And once you hit those 40 quarters, they'll give you a nice little green check mark that let you know you qualify for your own benefit. So for those of you who have ever seen what your estimated benefit will be down the road, and you're wondering, how did they even come up with that number? Well, the primary way they come up with your benefit number is based on this 35. What Social Security will allow you or calculate is they're going to take your 35 highest earning years. It's not your 35 most recent, it's your 35 highest earning years. For those of you online today who may still be working, you may actually notice that your estimated benefit increases year after year, because as you can imagine, you are making more money than you may have 32 years ago, and you're rolling off lower income years and replacing them with higher earning ones. If you have not worked 35 years, that's totally fine. What they'll do is for any year that you haven't worked up till 35, they're just going to plug in a bunch of zeros, and they're going to average that out. They're going to run it through a calculation that looks like a NASA scientist came up with it, and then they will spit out what your benefit that you are entitled to. So if you take something away from today, other than signing up on SSA.gov, it's visiting SSA.gov once a year, because what the website will show you is an earnings history of all the years you've ever worked and how much you've made. And the table is going to look like this that you see on the screen here. It is literally going to compile all your years of work and how much you've made and paid into the system. Why is this so important? Because what I don't want to have happen to you, which has happened to clients before, is you get to the 1 yard line, right? You're going to take your benefit and you notice that it's just a little bit lower than you think. And you realize in 2001 and 2002, there was misreported income. Maybe it shows an actual 0 there. And maybe that company doesn't even exist anymore. How are you going to verify that income? So I want you, every year that you're working, just visit SSA.gov, make sure that the number that you see on the table is correct, so you are entitled to your very own correct benefit. If you have issues with that, certainly there's a phone number here. We'll send this to you, or you can reach out to Bob and we can start working on that for you as well. So what happens if you decide to take your benefit at several different ages? Well, we've got 2 sides of the screen here. For those of you full retirement age, please look on the left-hand side. For those of you closer to full retirement age 67, please look on the right-hand side. So I don't have to double speak to everyone today. I am just going to cover the left-hand side here. What you will notice above age 66 is that 100%. What that means is if you take it at full retirement age, like I previously mentioned, you're going to be entitled to 100% of your own benefit. And as our eyes look to the left, though, we will see a bunch of descending negative numbers all the way to age 62. The earliest you can take your very own benefit is age 62. And what these negative numbers represent are permanent reductions in your benefit for the rest of your life. So if I call Social Security and they say, hey, Max, at age 66, at your full retirement age, you're going to be entitled to $1,000 a month. Well, we know if I take it as early as 62, I'll get a negative 25% applied to that. So I will only receive $750 a month. Now, the good news is Social Security, they're not pure evil when it comes to reductions, because as you can see to the right of your full retirement age, we have a bunch of ascending positive numbers that cap out at age 70. Every year that you can wait to take your own benefit past full retirement age up to age 70 is a guaranteed 8% increase that they will apply to your benefit. And the great news about that increase is it is inflation adjusted as well. So Social Security just came out within the last 2 weeks, and they have told everyone that based on where inflation is right now, everyone is going to get about a 3 to 4% increase to your benefit next year. Now, I've been giving this presentation for quite some time, and in an industry where Bob, myself, Steve, we could never guarantee anything, this is something that we can actually guarantee you that every single year post full retirement age, this will increase 8% annually above inflation. So whether you decide to take it as early as possible at 62, as late as age 70, completely up to your own situation. I just want you to know what happens to your benefit if you take it prior to full retirement age, at full retirement age, or you decide to let it grow. And of course, please work with Kennedy Financial to figure out your financial plan to see what's best for you. So as we move forward, I had just mentioned that if you take prior to full retirement age, you're going to get a decrease in your benefit, right? Well, there is also something that I want you to be aware of. It's probably the biggest pitfall that I see in Social Security, and it's something called the earnings limit. Now, if you take prior to full retirement age and you are still working and you are making more than $21,240, Social Security is actually going to withhold $1 from your benefit for every $2 you make above that number. So let me repeat that. If you decide to take it, let's call it at age 62, and you're still working and you're making $40,000 a year, Social Security is actually going to withhold a benefit or withhold money from your benefit. And it's called the earnings limits. In my understanding, the reason why this earnings limit is here is because they are trying to deter people with very high paying jobs from taking Social Security as early as possible and using it for means that have nothing to do with retirement and more for leisure. So the only way you can ever deter people from taking something early is to legitimately take the money away from them. So if you are working and you make more than $21,240 and you're trying to take your benefit prior to full retirement age, just know that there is that withholding penalty there. And once you turn full retirement age, again, 66 to 67, you can work, you can make as much as you like, and Social Security will not withhold anything. This is just for taking and working prior to full retirement age. This is just earned income W-2. So let me tell you what does not factor into the earnings limit. It's actually down here, but I'll just recite it. Dividend, capital gains, rental income, pensions, distributions from IRAs and workplace retirement plans, such as 401ks, are not counted as earned income. So if you take your benefit prior to full retirement age, you can work with Bob and the team to pull from dividend or rental income and different income streams that will not affect the earnings limits. So please write that down, 21,240. Make sure if you're taking your benefit prior to full retirement age that you're maybe not making more than this number. As we move ahead, we're going to go through one of the more important parts here, and it is spousal benefits. For those of you online today who are currently married or have ever been married, you are entitled to what's called a spousal benefit. And before I get to what you are entitled to at the top here, I'm just going to let you know how you qualify for it. So it's right down here, requirements to receive spousal benefits. 3 bullet points that I'll read for you right now. Bullet point 1, You must currently be married to your spouse for 1 year. I know it sounds incredibly romantic to go straight from the altar to the administration, but you do need to tough it out for 12 total months to be entitled to the spousal benefit. Second point, number 2, your spouse must be receiving their retirement or disability benefit. So what that means is in a marriage, no two people can simultaneously be taking a spousal benefit off each other. One of you would need to quote unquote turn theirs on, their own benefit, and then you can start turning on your spousal benefit off the spouse. So as you're planning, no two people in the marriage can simultaneously turn on a spousal benefit. One of you needs to be redeeming their own, and then you can quote unquote pull off your significant other. And then third bullet point, which I think is one of the most important ones, it's available even if you never worked. So a couple slides ago, I'd mentioned you need to hit those 40 quarters to qualify for your own benefit. Not the same for spousal benefit. You don't have to have worked 1 day in your life to be entitled to a spousal benefit. So if that previous number had deterred you, you can turn back in right now because you don't have to have worked a single day to qualify for this. So as a spouse, let's see what you are entitled to. Again, you've got the blue bars and these kind of greenish yellow bars here. I'm going to speak only to blue. The earliest you can take a spousal benefit is age 62. And as our eyes look all the way to the right, we'll see that that number caps out at 50%, excuse me. So the most you will ever receive as a spouse is 50% of your significant other's full retirement age benefit number. So that doesn't mean 50% of what they're taking right now. It's 50% of whatever their full retirement age number had been. So let me give you an example. We'll take me and my wife. Again, I call Social Security and they say, hey, Max, at age 66, you're going to be entitled to $1,000 a month for the rest of your life. We know personally, right? If I take my own benefit before that, I get a reduction. If I take it after that, I'm going to get money added to the benefit. Well, the spousal benefit, that 50% is only pegged to my full retirement age number, and that's $1,000. So in that scenario, my wife would be entitled to at most $500. So as you are trying to calculate the most you would be entitled to as a spouse, just know the most you'll ever get is 50% off your significant other's full retirement age benefit number. It doesn't matter what age your significant other takes their benefit. It won't affect your spousal benefit at all. It just matters that they're taking it, which will allow you to take it. So that's very basic math because that's how my mind works here. But if you need clarification on the numbers, please email Bob and we can go through a few different scenarios for your own situation. So again, spousal benefit, the most you'll receive is 50%. And as we move on, what happens in the event that your significant other passes away? Well, you would be entitled to what's called a survivor or commonly known as a widow's benefit. And again, the math is a little bit different here. And before I get to the percentages, let's just see how you qualify for it right down here. Now, in order to qualify for your survivor/widower's benefit, you must be married to your spouse for 9 months leading into the passing. Second bullet point, you yourself must be age 60 or older. You'll see in parentheses 50 if you're disabled or have child in care. We can table those for a different discussion, but assuming you are very healthy and not disabled, the earliest you can actually take your widow's benefit is age 60, so a couple years younger than the spousal benefit. And let's see what you're entitled to. Again, I'm going to reference only the blue bars here. So on the top left, you can see you can take it at age 60. And we can see all the way to the right-hand side, the number actually jumps to 100%. Now, here's the big difference between survivor and spousal. Spousal benefit, like I said, the percentages are only based off what your significant other were to receive at full retirement age. The survivor benefit is actually based on whatever they were receiving or due to receive upon their death. So you would be entitled to 100% of whatever they were receiving upon their death or due to receive. So think about it this way. Again, we take me and my wife, right? I call Social Security. They say, Max, you're going to get $1,000 a month at full retirement age. We know if I take it earlier, there's a reduction. If I take it later, they're going to add money. Well, if I pass away and I had waited till age 70 to take my benefit, and I'd gotten that 8% increase annually, that means my wife, Katie, is entitled to 100% of my age 70 number, because that's what I decided to do, is wait to take it at that age. So when you're thinking about, hey, when to take your own benefit, if you're married, I need you to think about it more from a family perspective. How will taking it at a certain age affect what your surviving spouse may be entitled to? Studies show that the difference between the higher earner in a relationship taking their own benefit at age 62 relative to 70 is about $10,000 to $11,000 annually that you're leaving on the table for your surviving spouse. So please, before you decide to take your benefit, work with Bob and the team and just figure out how this will affect your survivor benefit down the road. Now, you do have options to jump between benefits if you are a surviving spouse. I'm going to see them here. I'm going to zoom in. So if your significant other passes away, you have the ability to quote unquote jump between benefits. So option one is, as a surviving slash widower, you can start with a reduced survivor benefit as early as age 60. So if you desperately need the money because your significant other was the breadwinner, let's say, then you can take your survivor benefit at age 60. You can let yours grow in the background and switch to your retirement benefit at any time you want, assuming it becomes greater than your survivor benefit. So that is a way you can jump. The second way is to just do the inverse of that. You can start with your reduced retirement benefit at age 62. So just take it as early as possible, your own benefit. And then at any point you want, you can switch up to your survivor benefit, assuming it has grown larger. So just know you do have options to jump up to a higher benefit if you are a widower. And I'd ask you to work with Bob and see if that makes sense for you. But just know you do have the options to jump in the event that something unfortunate happens to you. We're going to move forward. Only a couple more slides for you here today. If this pertains to your situation, we're going to talk about divorce very quickly. Many divorcees don't know that they're actually entitled to a benefit off their ex. Or what I commonly see, I do this seminar 2 to 3 times a week, is some people do not even want to broach this topic because they don't want to initiate a conversation with their ex. So if that's you on the line here, just know that if you decide to take a divorcee benefit, if you qualify, they'll never know. Your ex will not get a text message or an email. It's not going to mitigate their benefit, even though you may want it to. So just know it'll never rehash anything. And here's really the huge difference between a divorcee benefit and your own benefit. To qualify, your marriage needed to have lasted 10 consecutive years. So if you're married for 9.5 years and you just can't really stand each other, maybe tough it out for 6 more months, and then you'd qualify for both a spousal benefit if your ex is still alive, or a survivor benefit if they have passed away. And the numbers are identical to what I've just mentioned. The most you can receive off your ex if they're still alive is 50% of their full retirement age benefit number. And the most you'll receive off them if they have passed away is up to 100% of their benefit. All you need to do is hit the 10 consecutive years of marriage. When you go to sign up for it, please make sure you have your weddings license and divorce decree, proof of marriage, proof of divorce, to make sure we hit that 10-year window, and they'll be able to figure out the math. If you are a double divorcee and both of those marriages lasted 10 years, you have your pick of the litter. You can pick either a spousal benefit, a survivor. You can never stack benefits, by the way. You can only ever take one. So if you're leaving this thinking you're going to pull a spousal off the ex while simultaneously taking yours, you cannot do that. You can only ever take one benefit. So if you are on the line as a divorcee, or if you know any divorcees, please know that you do have options so long as the marriage lasted 10 years. Finally, what I will get to on the topic of divorcee, excuse me, is remarriage. How does that affect your benefit at all if you are a previous divorcee and now you've remarried? Well, you have 3 things that are going to be happening on the bottom of the screen, 3 bubbles. And I'm going to just read them out loud and go through a few scenarios. What happens if you were married for 10 years, you get remarried, and that second marriage ends, right? So I'm married to my wife, Katie. We tough it out for 10 years. She gets very tired of my jokes. We get divorced, and then I get remarried, and that marriage only lasts for 9 months. Well, in that scenario, I actually become re-entitled to benefits off the first marriage. So if you're a divorcee for 10 years, remarried, and that second marriage ends through death, annulment, or divorce, you can just reinstitute and reapply yourself to the benefits off the first marriage. Now, what happens if you remarry before age 60? So again, I was married 10 years and I get remarried at age 55, let's say. Well, then I forfeit the spousal benefit off my ex, as if it never happened. And then I forfeit the survivor benefit off my ex if my ex-wife passes away before me. So if you remarry before age 60, in the eyes of Social Security, it's like it never even existed. However, here is the only loophole that I can find in Social Security these days, is what happens if you remarry after age 60? Well, you forfeit the spousal benefit off your ex, but you actually get to keep the survivor benefit of your spouse. We jokingly call this the Jane Fonda rule. Jane Fonda was married like 4 times, 3 of which lasted 10 years. And in her situation, one of her exes has passed away. One of her exes is still alive. So in that scenario, what happens to her is she can take the higher of her own benefit. She can take the ex off the ex who's, or the spousal off the ex who's still alive, and a survivor benefit off the ex who has passed away. So if you have a friend, or this pertains to you, and you're remarried or you got engaged at age 59 and a half, the greatest gift you can give them is telling them to set their wedding date after age 60, because in that scenario, he or she could take their own benefit or their spousal or the survivor off the ex. That's really the only loophole these days you can find in Social Security. So today, I do admit, I know we do cover a lot here, and not all of this pertains to your own very individual situation, but what we have covered is, please sign up on SSA.gov. We went through your full retirement age, your own benefit and how you qualify, the earnings limit that we need to be aware of, and then we went through spousal, survivor, divorcee, and remarriage. If there are any questions that you have based on your own personal situation, please reach out to Bob. I'm more than happy to set up anytime we need to go through these again with you. But with that being said, Bob, those were my prepared comments, and I'm going to pass it back over to you.
Appreciate that, Max. And I know we did compile a list of some of the questions we get asked most frequently. And if we kind of love for you to just address a couple of them. The first one, we hear a lot about the pot dwindling or running out of money. Many of us remember Al Gore and his Social Security lockbox. Can you speak on that? Any truth, or maybe separate the fact from the fiction?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of fiction behind it, right? And I think it's a polarizing topic that gets used more so as a political tool than anything. But in our eyes and the metrics that we see, Social Security is 100% fully funded for at least the next decade right now. So there are no issues when it comes to Social Security. If they don't find other ways to fund it, what you may see happen is, in a decade, it's not that it'll go away. They may just decrease everyone's benefits about 20%, which is not great news, but in the interim, everything is fine. Really, there's 2 things that are going to happen to fix it, Bob. First and foremost, on this page that I'd referenced with the earnings limits, on the left-hand side here, you're going to see this number 160,200. And what that number represents is, when you make more than 160,000 on your W-2, you may notice that Social Security stops being taken from your paycheck. Anytime you make money over that, it stops going into the system. What Social Security may do is move the goalpost a little bit, right? Maybe move this to 180,000 so that they can get more affluent people paying in the system for longer. And then secondly, like all things we do here, if they really don't find other ways to fund it, they'll figure out in the 11th hour, someone will come in and Congress will save it. But in our eyes, there are no issues when it comes to Social Security being funded right now.
Perfect. And I know you touched on it briefly, but as it relates to specifically income from a pension, capital gains, or unemployment income, Are those
Mhm.
factored into those Social Security earning limits?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I'm just going to reiterate it. So, and I'll put this in an email for you, Bob, in case anyone else calls on it. But so the earnings test is based on earned income only. And again, here's what does not apply to it. Dividend, capital gains, rental income if you've got a second home, pensions, distributions from IRA and workplace retirement plans, they are not counted as earned income. Severance pay is counted as earned income, and unemployment benefits are an entitlement benefit and not counted as earned income. So those are the things that do and do not factor in earned income as you decide to think about taking it prior to full retirement age.
Okay. And any chance we can give kind of a rough estimate for those folks that have not had a chance to go to ssa.gov and find specifically their situation? Maybe a rough estimate for what people can expect at their full retirement age?
Yeah, it's a great question. Before you sign up, if you're like, hey, I want to write on a legal pad what I may be entitled to work off that, the average monthly benefit for a retired worker is $1,827. So if you're just trying to ballpark it, start with 1,800 and work from there.
Perfect.
Mhm.
If people do want to call Social Security Administration, is there a better day or time of the week for them to usually try and call?
Yeah, so what I recommend when it comes to contacting Social Security is try and do it in person. Try and set up a time with a caseworker, even if you're not planning on taking it right away, because you want to build a rapport with the caseworker there. But if you did feel the need to call in for any reason, what we have found with studies is you want to avoid the first week of every month, because that's usually when people get their statements and they're very upset with their number and they're going to bombard the line. So avoid the first week of every month, and then avoid Monday through Wednesday on the weeks following that, because those are still higher volume, because I think people stew over the weekends and then they start calling right away. So second, third, fourth week of every month, and do it on a Thursday or Friday.
Perfect. Any other questions or issues that you can think of that people should consider when deciding on when to take their Social Security?
You know, the three that I like to, at least as a starting point, are first of all, do you need the money, right? Maybe if you don't, maybe you let it grow if it fits your financial picture, but start with that question first and foremost. Secondly, and I keep alluding to this, but it's something that just has happened in my family so much, but your second question should be, if you're trying to take it prior to full retirement age, again, 66 to 67, please know how much you're making. If you either are working or you're thinking about going back to work, try not to make more than 21,240. So that question summed up is, am I younger than full retirement age and am I working? And then third, you'll just never see this in print here, but maybe ask yourself about your health or your family history of health, right? Sometimes I give these and clients say, well, I'm just going to take it at 62 because I don't think I'm going to live till 72. Hey, if that's your prerogative and you don't think you're going to live that long, that factors in that you won't see in the number. So do I need the money? Am I working prior to full retirement age? And how is my health? Those are the big three.
Perfect. Max, listen, thanks again for all the great information. As you can see, decisions relating to Social Security are unique and specific to each individual. And it's important that you make these decisions in conjunction with your financial advisor as part of your overall personal wealth plan. Certainly, if you'd like to discuss your specific financial goals and objectives with one of our advisors, certainly you can call us in the office at 248-528-0485, or go to kennedyfg.com and click Start Your Journey to schedule a sounding board phone call. If you know of someone that has financial questions that you think would benefit from our independent and unbiased advice, we'd love a chance to help them. And you can, again, go to kennedyfg.com/refer a friend. Listen, thanks again for all of your time. Appreciate it. Max, thank you again. Hope everybody has a great day. Be well.
Thank you.
Take care.